There's a type of predator you never see coming. Not because they hide in shadows, but because they wear the exact face you're desperately looking for. The face of help, of compassion, of salvation. To understand how it happened, we have to go back to April 2021. I was 32. I'd just lost my job, and I was having panic attacks so bad I thought I was dying. That's when I found Dr. Sarah Vance. For 14 months, I paid her to help me heal. But while I sat in her office twice a week, she was secretly manufacturing new crises, sabotaging my career, and destroying my relationships to make sure I could never leave her. I'm going to tell you the story of the most insidious kind of betrayal, and the dangerous test I used to catch a licensed professional farming her patients for profit. This is the story of Dr. Sarah Vance and how I finally got free. There's a type of predator you never see coming. Not because they hide in shadows, but because they wear the exact face you're desperately looking for. The face of help, of compassion, of salvation. I am going to tell you about Dr. Sarah Vance, my therapist for 14 months, the woman who saved my life, and the woman who systematically destroyed it piece by piece to make sure I could never leave her. This isn't a story about blackmail. It's worse than that. This is about someone who didn't just exploit my vulnerabilities. She manufactured new ones, created crises, sabotaged my life. All while I sat in her office twice a week, paying her to help me solve the problems she was secretly causing. This is the story of the most insidious kind of betrayal, and how I finally saw what she was doing. April 2021. I was 32 years old, and I'd just lost my job as a project manager at a tech startup. Not fired, laid off. The company downsized. 20 of us gone in one afternoon. Completely out of my control. But it felt like failure anyway. Like I'd done something wrong. Like I wasn't good enough. I'd been at that job for 4 years. Built relationships. Had projects I cared about. And then one Tuesday afternoon, it was just over. My girlfriend at the time, Emma, tried to be supportive, but I could see it in her eyes. Worry, doubt. We'd been talking about moving in together. Now I didn't even have steady income. I started having panic attacks, real ones, heart racing, can't breathe, convinced I'm dying. The first one happened in a grocery store. I abandoned my cart and sat in my car for an hour, shaking. I knew I needed help, professional help. I found Dr. Sarah Vance through Psychology Today. Her profile was different from the others, more personal, more real. I don't believe in one-size-fits-all therapy, her bio read. I believe in meeting you where you are, not where a textbook says you should be. Life is messy. Therapy should adapt to that. She specialized in career transitions and anxiety. Perfect for me. Her reviews were glowing. Dr. Vance changed my life. Finally, a therapist who really gets it. I can't imagine where I'd be without her. Her photo showed a woman in her early 50s with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. She looked like someone who'd actually listen, who'd understand. I called on a Thursday. She answered personally, not a receptionist. Her voice was calm, reassuring. "Tell me a little about what's going on," she said. I explained about the job loss, the panic attacks, the feeling that everything was falling apart. "That sounds incredibly difficult," she said. "But you know what I hear in your voice? Strength. You're reaching out. That's not easy. That takes courage." I felt seen for the first time in weeks. "I have an opening tomorrow at 3 p.m., she said. "Can you make that work?" I could. I did. Dr. Vance's office was in a converted Victorian house in a quiet neighborhood. Not the sterile medical building I'd expected. It felt like walking into someone's home. The therapy room had soft lighting, comfortable chairs, plants everywhere. A white noise machine hummed softly in the background, She offered me tea, asked me to call her Sarah, though I never quite felt comfortable with that. "Tell me your story," she said, settling into her chair with a notepad. And I did. Everything. The job loss, the panic attacks, my relationship fears, my dad walking out when I was 9, my complicated feelings about success and failure, the voice in my head that said I was never quite good enough. She listened. Really listened. Took notes, asked questions that made me think. "You know what I notice?" she said at the end of our first session. "You carry a lot of responsibility for things that aren't your fault. The layoff wasn't about you. Your dad leaving wasn't about you. But you've made them mean something about who you are." I felt tears in my eyes. Someone got it. Someone understood. "I want to work with you," she said. "I think we can make real progress here, but I need to be honest. This kind of deep work, it takes time, it takes commitment. Are you ready for that?" I was. God, I was so ready. We scheduled twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays at 3 p.m. My insurance covered most of it. $40 copay per session, totally manageable. For the first month, therapy felt like magic. Dr. Vance helped me see patterns I'd never noticed. Childhood wounds affecting adult choices. Defense mechanisms I'd built that were now holding me back. She gave me homework, journaling exercises, meditation practices, ways to interrupt my panic attacks. And it worked. I was sleeping better. The panic attacks were becoming less frequent. I was even starting to apply for jobs with some optimism. Emma noticed the difference. "Therapy is really helping you," she said one night. "I'm proud of you for doing this." I felt like I was finally healing. I had no idea what was actually happening. It started small. So small, I almost missed it. In our 5th week of therapy, I told Dr. Vance about a job interview I had coming up. A senior project manager role at a mid-sized company. Good pay, stable, exactly what I needed. "Tell me about the position," she said. I walked her through it. The responsibilities, the team structure, my concerns about whether I was qualified. "You're more than qualified," she said firmly. "But I'm curious. Have you looked into the company culture? Sometimes what looks perfect on paper can be toxic in practice." I hadn't really dug deep, just the standard research. "I'd encourage you to do some investigating," she said. "Talk to current employees if you can. Check Glassdoor reviews. The last thing you need right now is to jump into another unstable situation." It seemed like good advice, protective, caring. So I did more research, and I found some concerning reviews on Glassdoor. High turnover, unclear expectations, poor work-life balance. The reviews were from 2 years ago, and there were also newer positive ones. But Dr. Vance's warning echoed in my head. In our next session, I told her what I'd found. "See," she said, "your instincts were right to be cautious. What does it say that they're still showing that pattern? I know you need a job, but rushing into the wrong one could set your recovery back months." I withdrew my application. It felt like the safe choice. Looking back now, I wonder, were those Glassdoor reviews even real, or were they planted there? It seems paranoid, impossible. But I've learned that impossible things happen more often than we think. Over the next 2 months, it became a pattern. I'd mention something good in my life, a job prospect, a social event, a new opportunity, and Dr. Vance would gently, carefully plant seeds of doubt. "Have you thought about?" "I'm just concerned that, in my experience, situations like this often." And then, coincidentally, problems would appear. Not immediately, never obviously, but they'd appear. The job interview where I felt great in the first round, but the hiring manager never called back for the second. Dr. Vance had asked for the company name to better understand the context. 2 days later, no call back. The friend who invited me to a networking event but then texted to say I might not be ready for that kind of scene yet. I'd mentioned his name to Dr. Vance. described him as someone who sometimes made insensitive jokes. The apartment I was interested in renting, where the landlord suddenly decided to go with another applicant despite me being pre-approved. Dr. Vance had asked for the address to check if it was in a safe neighborhood. Each time, she was sympathetic, supportive, ready to help me process the disappointment. "This keeps happening to you," she'd say. "Let's explore why you might be unconsciously sabotaging these opportunities." And I believed her. I thought I was the problem, that something in me was broken, that I needed to dig deeper into therapy to fix it. So I kept coming back, twice a week, then 3 times when things got really intense. She'd say, "I have an opening on Monday if you need extra support this week." I always needed it. There was always a crisis, always something falling apart. My savings were draining. $40 per session, 3 times a week, was $480 a month. But what choice did I have? Without therapy, I'd spiral. Dr. Vance told me so. "I know money is tight," she'd say, "but your mental health is an investment, and you're so close to a breakthrough, it would be a shame to stop now." 7 months into therapy, Emma and I broke up. It happened after I told Dr. Vance that Emma had been pressuring me about our future, asking when I'd find a job, suggesting maybe I should broaden my search beyond project management. "How does that make you feel?" Dr. Vance asked. "Like she doesn't believe in me," I said. "Does she understand what you're going through? The depth of the work you're doing here?" "I don't think so. She thinks therapy should fix me faster." Dr. Vance frowned. "That's concerning. A partner should be supportive of your healing journey, not critical of its timeline. Has she always been this way?" I thought about it. Emma had been patient, but lately, yes, she'd seemed frustrated. "Maybe," I said. "I wonder if this relationship is healthy for you right now," Dr. Vance said carefully. "Sometimes the people closest to us have the hardest time with our growth. They liked us the way we were. Our evolution threatens them." It made sense. It made terrible, convincing sense. That weekend, Emma and I had a fight. She said I'd become closed off, that I only talked about therapy, that I'd stopped trying to move forward with my life. "Dr. Vance says I need to focus on healing right now," I told her. "Dr. Vance isn't in this relationship," Emma said, frustrated. "I am, and I feel like you've replaced me with her." That should have been a red flag. Instead, I heard it as exactly what Dr. Vance had predicted. Emma was threatened by my growth. We broke up 2 days later. In my next session, Dr. Vance was sympathetic but not surprised. "I'm sorry you're going through this," she said, "but sometimes we have to let go of relationships that don't serve our healing. This might be the best thing for both of you." I cried in her office. She handed me tissues, told me this was progress, even though it hurt. And I believed her. Without Emma, I became more dependent on therapy. It was my anchor, my only consistent relationship. My friends started to drift away too. Not dramatically, just gradually. Jake stopped inviting me to things after I canceled on him 3 times in a row because I wasn't in a good headspace. My college friend Taylor and I stopped our weekly calls after I spent an entire conversation talking about therapy breakthroughs and didn't ask about her life once. My mom called less often, said I seemed distant, that she was worried about me. But Dr. Vance said this was normal. Sometimes when we do deep therapeutic work, relationships that can't support that work fall away, she explained. It's not personal, it's evolution. You're becoming someone new. Not everyone can come with you on that journey. By month 10, my life had contracted to a small circle. Therapy, job applications that went nowhere, my empty apartment, and mounting credit card debt. I'd started missing insurance payments, so therapy was now out of pocket. $180 per session, 3 times a week, $2,160 a month. I was burning through what remained of my severance package, but Dr. Vance said this was temporary. "Once you have this breakthrough we're working toward, everything will change," she promised. "The job situation, the relationships, all of it. But you have to trust the process." I trusted her. What else did I have? The doubt started as a whisper, a tiny voice I tried to ignore. It was month 11. I'd been in therapy for nearly a year. I'd spent over $20,000. My savings were gone. I was living on credit cards. I had no job, no girlfriend, no social life. And in our session one Friday, Dr. Vance said something that made me pause. We were talking about a job interview I'd bombed. I'd been so anxious I could barely speak. The interviewer had looked uncomfortable, ended the meeting early. "This keeps happening," Dr. Vance said, her tone disappointed. "We've been working on your interview anxiety for months. Why do you think you're still sabotaging yourself?" Something in her voice was different, less compassionate, more frustrated. "I don't know," I said, feeling ashamed. "I think you're afraid of success," she said. "Part of you wants to stay stuck. Otherwise, why would you keep doing this to yourself?" I felt like I'd been slapped. "I'm not trying to stay stuck," I said. "Consciously, no, but unconsciously. The pattern is clear." I left that session feeling worse than when I'd arrived. For the first time in 11 months, therapy hadn't helped. It had hurt. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the session, Dr. Vance's tone, her frustration. And then I remembered something. A small thing. A strange thing. That job interview, the one I'd bombed. The company was small, startup energy. And the interviewer, a woman named Michelle, had said something odd. "It's weird," she'd said, looking at her email. "I got a message this morning from someone claiming to be your former supervisor. Said you had ongoing mental health challenges that made you unreliable. Obviously, that's inappropriate and possibly illegal, so I disregarded it. But I wanted to mention it in case someone is trying to sabotage you." At the time, I'd been too anxious to process it. I'd assumed it was my old boss being vindictive about the layoffs, though that didn't make sense. We'd parted on good terms. But now, lying in bed at 2 a.m., I thought about it differently. Who else knew I was interviewing there? Who else knew the company name, the timeline, everything? Dr. Vance. I told myself I was being paranoid. Therapy had made me suspicious of everyone. That's what Dr. Vance would say. But the whispers wouldn't stop. What if she was wrong about that? What if she was wrong about everything? I didn't go to my Monday session. I called and canceled, said I was sick. Dr. Vance texted within minutes. "I'm concerned about you. Avoidance is a red flag. Can we talk?" I didn't respond. I needed space to think. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called Emma. "Hey," I said when she answered. "I know this is out of nowhere, but can I ask you something?" There was a pause. "Okay." "When we broke up," I said, "you said I'd become closed off, that I only talked about therapy. Do you remember?" "Yes," she said carefully. Did I seem worse to you? Like more anxious, more isolated, compared to when I first started therapy?" Another pause. "Honestly? Yes. At first, therapy seemed to help, but then it was like you disappeared into it. You stopped seeing friends, stopped applying for jobs seriously. Everything became about what your therapist said." "Did you ever talk to Dr. Vance?" "No," Emma said. "Why would I?" I thought maybe, never mind. "Actually," Emma said, "there was something weird. About a week before we broke up, I got a Facebook message from someone I didn't know. No profile picture. They said they were a friend of yours and that you'd been talking about breaking up with me because I was holding you back. It felt like someone trying to stir shit up, so I blocked them, but it bothered me. My stomach dropped. Did you tell me this?" "I tried to, but you were so defensive about therapy at that point, I didn't want to make it worse." After we hung up, I sat with my laptop, heart pounding. I started making a list. a timeline. Every bad thing that had happened in the past year, every rejection, every relationship that had fallen apart, every opportunity that had mysteriously evaporated. And next to each one, I wrote whether I'd told Dr. Vance about it beforehand. The pattern was undeniable. I needed to be sure, needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. So I designed a test. I scheduled my next session, showed up like nothing was wrong. "I'm glad you came," Dr. Vance said. "I was worried about you." "I'm sorry," I said. "I just needed a day to process some things." "Of course. What's going on?" I told her a lie, a careful, deliberate lie. "I reconnected with an old friend," I said. "Daniel. We went to college together. He's starting a company and asked if I wanted to come on as a co-founder. It would mean taking a risk. No salary at first, just equity. But it could be amazing." None of this was true. Daniel was a real person, but we hadn't spoken in 3 years. Dr. Vance's expression was hard to read. "That's interesting. Tell me more." I elaborated, made up details about the company, the opportunity, how excited I felt. "And how does this fit with the work we've been doing?" she asked. "I think it could be perfect," I said. "A chance to rebuild, to trust myself." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "I want to support you, but I'm concerned. Startup culture can be exploitative, and given your anxiety around professional environments, jumping into a co-founder role with someone you haven't spoken to in years, that feels impulsive." "Maybe," I said, "but it also feels right." "What does Daniel do now? What's his track record?" "He's been in tech for a few years," I said vaguely. "And the company idea? The market viability?" I gave her more fake details. She took notes, asked for Daniel's last name, the company name, details about the pitch. "I just want to help you think this through," she said. I left that session and waited. 2 days later, I got a Facebook message from Daniel. "Hey man, weird question. Did you give my name to someone? I got a strange email asking about my business ventures and whether I was financially stable. It felt like a background check or something. What's going on?" I stared at the message. She'd done it again, but this time I'd been watching. I spent the next week digging into everything I could find about Dr. Sarah Vance. Her licensing was legitimate. Her credentials were real. But there were gaps in her professional history. Years where I couldn't find any record of her working. I found an old blog post she'd written about the financial realities of private practice that had been deleted but was still in Google's cache. In it, she complained about how little money therapists made for the amount of education and emotional labor required. "The only therapists who make real money," she'd written, "are the ones who keep patients dependent long-term. The ones who make themselves indispensable." The post had been taken down within days, but I had a screenshot now. I searched for her brother, Derek Vance, found his social media. He worked in marketing, specialized in reputation management and online brand manipulation. I found reviews she'd written for herself on Psychology Today using fake names. Found Glassdoor reviews she or Derek had posted about companies I'd mentioned. I found a pattern of long-term patients, people who'd been seeing her for years, 5 years, 7 years. One woman had been her patient for a decade. And I found something else. A complaint filed with the state licensing board 2 years earlier. It had been dismissed due to insufficient evidence. But the allegation was clear. A former patient claimed Dr. Vance had deliberately sabotaged her job prospects to maintain the therapeutic relationship. The patient's name was redacted, but her story was familiar. Everything clicked into place. Dr. Vance wasn't helping me. She was farming me, creating problems to solve, manufacturing dependency, keeping me isolated, broke, and desperate so I'd keep coming back, keep paying. I felt sick, violated, furious, but I also felt something else, clear. For the first time in a year, I felt absolutely clear. I knew exactly what I had to do. I couldn't just stop going. That felt dangerous. Dr. Vance knew too much about me, my fears, my vulnerabilities. If I just disappeared, what would she do? So I needed a plan. I started by finding a real therapist, someone with solid reviews from multiple sources, someone whose patients graduated from therapy, not stayed forever. Dr. James Reeves, a psychologist in his 60s, grandfatherly, kind. When I called for a consultation, he asked me one question. What are you hoping to get out of therapy? To get better, I said. And then to stop. He laughed. Good answer. That's how it's supposed to work. I told him everything. About Dr. Vance, the sabotage, the manufactured crises, the dependency. What you're describing, he said carefully, sounds like a severe ethical violation, possibly criminal. Have you considered reporting her to the licensing board? I don't have proof, I said. Not the kind that would hold up. Just patterns, coincidences. Patterns can be evidence, he said. But I understand your hesitation. First priority, get yourself out safely. Then we can discuss next steps. Dr. Reeves helped me create an exit strategy. I would continue seeing Dr. Vance for 2 more weeks, but I would feed her false information. Tell her I was moving to another state for a job. Make it sound like something she'd approve of. The key, Dr. Reeves said, is to make her think she's succeeded, that her therapy worked, that you're healed and moving on naturally. If she thinks you're escaping or rejecting her, she might escalate. So that's what I did. My next session with Dr. Vance was theater. I have news, I said, smiling. I got a job offer in Seattle. It's perfect. Everything we've been working toward. Her expression flickered, just for a second. Something cold, calculating. Then the warm smile returned. That's wonderful. Tell me about it. I gave her the fake details. A project management role at a growing company. Great salary. They wanted me to start in 3 weeks. It feels like everything is finally coming together, I said. Thanks to our work here. I'm so proud of you, she said. But her eyes were different, sharp, assessing. Of course, I'm nervous about the move, I said. New city. Starting over. We can do phone sessions, she said immediately. I have several remote clients. Nothing has to change. I really appreciate that, I said. But I think I might be ready to try things on my own. You've given me the tools. Now I need to use them. Silence, heavy and strange. That's a big decision, she finally said. After all this work, are you sure you're ready? I think so, I said. But I'd like to keep seeing you these next few weeks. Transition properly. She relaxed slightly. Of course. We'll make sure you're fully prepared. Over the next 2 weeks, I maintained the performance. Talked about packing, about my excitement, about how therapy had changed my life. And I watched her. Really watched her. She was trying to plant doubts, trying to find cracks. Seattle has a high cost of living. Are you sure the salary is enough? Starting a new job is stressful. Are you prepared for potential anxiety relapses? You won't know anyone there. What's your support system going to look like? But I didn't take the bait. I stayed positive, enthusiastic, grateful. And in our final session, I thanked her. You saved my life, I said, the lie smooth and practiced. I'll never forget what you've done for me. She hugged me, held on a little too long. You're going to do amazing things, she said. Remember, I'm always here if you need me. I walked out of her office for the last time, drove straight to Dr. Reeves's office, and cried for an hour. The harassment started within a week. Text messages. Just checking in. How's Seattle? Emails. Thinking about you. How's the transition going? I didn't respond. Dr. Reeves had told me not to. Then the messages changed. I'm concerned. I haven't heard from you. Are you okay? I hope you're not avoiding our therapeutic relationship. That would be a major setback. I'm really worried. Please respond so I know you're safe. After 2 weeks of silence, she left a voicemail. Her voice was different, colder. I need to speak with you about some concerning behaviors I've observed. It's important we discuss this. Call me back. I didn't. Then things got weird. My mom called, said she'd gotten a message from a concerned friend saying I was in trouble and needed help. The message came from a fake Facebook account. My friend Jake got an email claiming I was in crisis and considering hurting myself. Dr. Vance was trying to force me back into contact, create a crisis that would require intervention, make herself necessary again. But I was prepared. Dr. Reeves had warned me this might happen. I sent one final email, short, clear. Dr. Vance, I appreciate the time we worked together, but I've decided to pursue other therapeutic options. I'm doing well, and ask that you respect my decision and cease contact. Thank you. The response came within minutes. 5 paragraphs about how I was regressing, how terminating therapy abruptly was dangerous, how she had a professional obligation to ensure my safety. I didn't respond. I blocked her number, blocked her email, told my friends and family that if anyone contacted them about me, it was harassment, and they should ignore it. And slowly, over the next month, the messages stopped. Dr. Vance moved on, presumably to other patients, other victims. But I was out, I was free. Working with Dr. Reeves was like night and day. Our sessions had goals, measurable outcomes. We tracked progress. And when I got better at something, when my anxiety decreased, when I successfully interviewed for jobs, when I rebuilt relationships, he celebrated it, didn't find new problems to dig into. After 3 months, he said something Dr. Vance never had. You're doing really well. I think we can start meeting every other week instead of weekly. I stared at him. You're reducing sessions? That's how therapy is supposed to work, he said gently. You improve. You need less support. Eventually, you graduate. When does that happen? When you feel ready, and when I agree. Maybe another 6 months? We'll see how you progress. 6 months, not years. Not indefinitely, 6 months. I actually got a job, a real one, with a good company in my city. The interview went well. No mysterious emails sabotaging me. I reconnected with Emma. Not romantically, that ship had sailed, but as friends. She told me she was glad I seemed like myself again. I rebuilt my relationship with my mom, started seeing Jake and Taylor regularly. My life slowly reassembled itself. And I learned something crucial. Real healing doesn't require dependency. Real help empowers you to leave, not traps you into staying. About 6 months after I'd escaped Dr. Vance, I got a phone call from a stranger. Is this the person who used to see Dr. Sarah Vance? A woman asked. Who is this? My name is Lisa Torres. I'm an investigative journalist with the local Alt Weekly. I'm working on a story about Dr. Vance, and I heard you might have had a difficult experience with her. My heart started pounding. How did you get my name? The licensing board, she said. You filed a complaint 6 months ago. I had. At Dr. Reeves's suggestion, I didn't think anything would come of it. Didn't think anyone would care. I'm talking to multiple former patients, Lisa continued. There's a pattern. She keeps people in therapy for years, sabotages their lives outside of sessions, creates dependency. One patient was with her for 8 years, spent over $150,000. Wow, I whispered. Would you be willing to talk, on or off the record? I thought about it, about Dr. Vance's other patients, the ones still trapped. On the record, I said. The article published 2 months later. The therapist who made patients sicker, inside one psychologist's alleged scheme to create lifelong clients. 6 former patients, including me. All with similar stories. All with the pattern of mysterious sabotages, extended dependency, financial exploitation. The licensing board opened a formal investigation. Dr. Vance's practice closed. Her website went dark. I don't know where she is now. The last I heard, she was fighting the licensing board's actions, claiming her former patients were experiencing false memories and projecting their own failures onto her. Maybe she'll lose her license. Maybe she won't. The system is slow. Therapists are hard to discipline. Proof is difficult when everything happens in the confidential space of a therapy session. But her practice is gone. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that saves the next person who would have walked into her office, broken and desperate, looking for help. I'm 34 now, 2 years out from Dr. Vance, and I'm okay. Better than okay. I have a job I like, friends I trust, a life that's mine. I still see Dr. Reeves occasionally, once a month now, sometimes less. He says I'll probably stop needing therapy entirely within the year. And that's the difference, isn't it? Real therapists want you to leave. Predators want you to stay. If you're in therapy and it feels like you're getting worse, not better, trust that feeling. If your therapist seems to always find new problems to work on, never progress to celebrate, that's a red flag. If your life outside of therapy is shrinking, not expanding, something is wrong. Therapy should help you build a life, not replace it. And if you're trapped with someone like Dr. Vance, know this: you can get out. It's hard, it's scary, but you can do it. Find another therapist to help you plan the exit. Document everything. Protect yourself. And then leave. Just leave. You deserve real help. Real healing. Not someone who profits from keeping you broken. That's my story. The story of the therapist who destroyed my life to keep me coming back. And the story of how I got free